We talk sports in the first round, and sports is a part of life, but sports isn't life. It's just a small section of it that helps divert sometimes from reality. And as I've talked about before, sports brings people together. And 30 years ago, sports brought Tom Collette, a kid I went to high school with and who was a neighbor of mine, and me together. He was a Bulls fan, even though I told him the Celtics were out there and had more championships. And we shared a love of sports. Sometimes when we talk about athletes in sports, we idolize them and talk about their character and their amazing feats. I want to talk about Tom Collette's character. Tom fought cancer for over 20 years, and to the best of my knowledge, had at least 30 surgeries. I was out in California where him and I grew up last December. One night in between our houses, we stood in the middle of the street. It was about 32 degrees, and we talked sports, and we talked life. And he asked me, "Ron, what do you have planned for 2019? I said, "Tom, I don't know. I don't know what God's got for me this year. There's a couple things on the table I've been thinking about, and one of them was this podcast." And as soon as I mentioned doing a sports podcast, Tom said, "This is what you're supposed to do." He was very encouraging. He was very upbeat. And he always had an appreciation for life that helped me to focus my perspective onto things that were really important in life. A couple days ago, Tom Collette passed away of cancer, October 7th of this year. It's good that we have sports as a distraction. It's better that we have men like Tom Collette on this planet to help share this journey with us. Let's start the show.
You're tuned in to the hottest sports analysis of the week with your hosts Ron Zolbeck and Chris Roberts. And now, here's the first round.
It's a good weekend in the first round. You're in it with Ron Dahlbeck along with the rest of the first round crew. There's a lot going on in sports, and we're going to get right to it, starting with college football right now. Let's get to the lineup. Everything going on in the world of sports. Virginia, number 20, goes on the road to Miami. Chris and I are going to be breaking that game down. Virginia's 4-1. I think this is two evenly matched teams, not two great teams, which means I'm interested in it. We're going to talk about that game. Colorado goes on the road to number 13, Oregon. Oregon, 4-1, given 21 points. I like Colorado in this one. The Buffaloes play tough. They played against Nebraska earlier in the year. They got down. They came back, even though it was a home game. They showed me they had heart. I think they have enough to stick close to Oregon in this game. Red River rivalry in Dallas, high noon. Number 6, Oklahoma going up against number 11, Texas. This is just going to be an offensive showdown. No defense at all. I've got a lot of stats that I want to go over about this game. I want to see what Jalen Hurts is going to do. Awesome quarterback. I want to see what Sam Ehlinger is going to do. Again, awesome quarterback. I think this game could go over 80 points, and this is one of my 5-star Millennium teaser picks of the week. So far, if you've been watching the first round, I know you have, I am 5-0 this year on my Millennial picks. This is one of them. This week, I got 2 for you. I love them both. Florida State goes on the road to Clemson. They're getting 27.5 points. I actually think that Florida State is starting to turn in the right direction, even though they're not a good team still. I think they've got enough to hang with Clemson. We'll talk about that one. Michigan State getting 10.5 points going on the road to Camp Randall in Wisconsin. Wisconsin has a really awesome defense. But what I even like better is their number 1 running back, Jonathan Taylor, my number 1 contender for Heisman. That's going to be a good game to watch. Iowa State goes on the road to West Virginia. Again, neither of these teams are ranked, but I think it's going to be a great game. They're both disciplined teams. They have good offenses. I'll take West Virginia plus the 10.5. Penn State going on the road to number 17, Iowa. Iowa had a tough game. They just could not get out of their own way. They couldn't get their offense going last week at Michigan. I think they turned it around, but I think Penn State, given the 3.5, is going to get it done in Iowa. Then the game of the week, College Game Day, is going to be there. Number 7, Florida, coming off a huge home victory against Auburn. is getting 13.5 points at LSU, the number 5th ranked team in the country, the number 2 overall passing team in the country. Hundreds of things to break down and talk about. We're going to cover them. This is also my second 5-star millennial teaser of the week. I will let you know when we break it down who I'm taking so you could go to the bank on Monday and get paid. Major League Baseball, the National League Championship Series and the American League Championship Series are set. St. Louis puts up 10 runs in the first inning against the Braves and advances in Game 5 with a chance to go to the World Series, but they're going to have to get past the Washington Nationals, who have good hitting. They have 2 frontline starters in Strasburg and Scherzer. I like both of them. Pitching wins in the playoffs. This is going to be a good matchup. And, of course, in the American League, we have a 5-star showcase between the ugly, disgusting, let's buy another championship New York Yankees and the Astros, who built their team the right way. I like the Astros for a lot of reasons, but we could talk about the Yanks hitting. We could talk about who's going to be their starting 4. Are they going to bring CeCe back for this series in the playoffs? I don't know how much gas is left in that tank. We're going to talk about that. Also going on in the world of sports, we've got our top 5 list for Friday. Chris and I are going to be breaking down the 5 greatest athletes, in our opinion, in the history of sports. I guarantee you it's going to be a little controversial because I know who his number 1 is, and you're going to find out who my number 1 is on an EPMD weekend. I'm so excited. Want to introduce my co-host, Chris Roberts. Chris, how are you doing?
Man, it's been a long week, man. I've just got my car back today. Whew, I tell you, man.
That's it? Just your car? Work didn't suck? Women problems? You have a young daughter? She's
I
almost to the point where she knows
car,
everything?
Man.
Huh?
I miss my car, man. My car is... That's my sanctuary, Ron.
I know.
I know.
My baby was down. My Jag was down. I love that Jag more than my kids.
I
Okay.
can't say that about my car.
Okay, not that much. But I know when I get in that Jag, I'm like, oh, there's good things about life.
Exactly.
And that's one of them. So your car broke down, then they couldn't find the keys, and it's just...
Yeah, lost my keys. Nobody knew where they were.
You didn't lose the keys.
I didn't lose the keys.
The car company that was fixing your car lost the keys.
To be honest with you, Ryan, I don't know who lost my keys. I don't know if the tow truck driver lost my keys or if Hyundai lost my keys. I don't know.
Let's get a bright spot in here. So, I'm wearing my EPMD shirt. I'm excited about this. I have all these shirts, and they're just T-shirts. I realize that. But some of them mean more in life than other clothes and other objects that I have. And I can't even tell you where some of my shirts have gone to. There's somebody in this house that doesn't like some of these shirts, I think, and somehow they just mysteriously vanish. So I went and bought a whole bunch of new T-shirts this week, and this is the first one I'm sporting, my Erica Parrish, Making Dollars. Maybe we got some hip-hop fans out there that go way back.
Yes.
Way back. Strictly Business. If Anthony Chico is listening out in Colorado, we've got listeners all around the country watching tonight. Anthony Chico, this T-shirt is for you. But we're here to talk about sports. The first game that I wanted to break down was Miami 2-3. Manny Diaz is trying to get that magic combination in that really tough first year there. It's a home game. They got down last week. I don't know if you saw the game or not. Yeah, and they were playing in Miami, and Virginia Tech came out of nowhere and put a 35 spot on them.
Right.
And they came all the way back. N'Kosi Perry comes in and throws for over 400 yards. Mm-hmm. What I want to have happen is they start using DJ Dallas a lot more, because I think DJ Dallas is a stud, and they're going up against a 4-1 Virginia team who, besides one hiccup at Notre Dame where they had 29 carries for 4 rushing yards, you can't do that ever in college football. That's a rule in the first round. You can't have 29 carries for 4 yards rushing. They're getting 2 points on the road at Miami, and I don't know what Miami is going to show up. I'm taking Virginia plus the 2.5 points.
You know what? I actually think when N'Kosi Perry came into that game last week, he actually gave Miami a spark that was missing. That offense could not move at all this whole season.
Oh,
I mean, you go back.
They were getting blitzed.
Exactly. Go back to the first game when they played Florida. I mean, I don't know if it was just the offensive coordinator not being able to get the freshman get him plays that he could actually get the ball to the right receivers or not. But N'Kosi Perry came in that game last week, actually turned that offense around, and I'm looking for Miami, along with DJ Dallas and N'Kosi Perry, to actually go ahead and I believe they'll beat Virginia this week.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. So last week you started out taking all my picks. This week you're going the other way.
Yes, sir.
Oh, there's nothing wrong with that. Colorado, a team that nobody's really talking about, 3-2, is going on the road to number 13 Oregon, who I was talking about last week. Had a big game against Cal.
Right.
Their defense showed up. Only gave up a touchdown. They looked really solid. Oregon's 4-1. They're given 21 points. I just think that's too many. I've seen Colorado. They played good against Arizona State, getting a win. They played good against at home in a kind of flip-floppy, a little bit of a sloppy game, but they had the heart in the fourth quarter to beat Nebraska. I think they've got enough to actually keep it within 21 points, even though it's on the road against the top 15 team that's defense has been playing lights out. I think they could keep it close enough.
I think Mario Cristobal actually has that team going in the right direction. I think that defense is going to play. I think they have something to prove. I mean, because prior to that game, they hadn't given up a touchdown since Auburn, exactly.
And they only gave up one last week.
Exactly. So right. I think that defense is going to come back hungry and wants to start that streak over again. I actually think that Colorado is going to have some issues going to Eugene this week.
So you got Oregon.
I got Oregon
minus 21.
Yeah.
That's a big 21. That's a big matzo ball you're laying out there.
Yes, sir.
21 points is a lot. I mean, it's a home game, but I'm going to go with Colorado on this one. I think Colorado's got enough heart. I think they've got a sustainable enough offense, a mediocre, good enough defense. Justin Herbert hasn't been lights out this year where I'm afraid, and I mean, who's talking about him for the Heisman anymore?
Nobody's talking about it for the Heisman. They're talking about it for a first-round draft pick now.
Yeah, but, he's not scaring me in a way that Jalen Hurts does or Tua does.
Right.
I mean, it's just not there. He's a good, competent quarterback, but I'm not scared of them putting up 48 points. I mean, they only put up, 17 against Cal last week, 21 or 24 against, who did they play the week before? Stanford? These teams aren't lights out teams. So, it'll be an interesting game. Two evenly matched teams. That's what piques my interest. Let's go to the big game, noon kickoff right after College game day. It's the Red River rivalry. Oklahoma, number 6 in the country, invites Texas down to the Cotton Bowl. I mean, all I have to say is offense, offense, offense.
Exactly, offense. You have Texas, who defense is not even cracking the top 100 right now. So with a defense that's not cracking the top 100 right now, going against Jalen Hurts is going to be fireworks. Jalen, I actually think he's going to actually get his Heisman moment this week.
Really?
Yeah.
So they got CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
Who I love at wide receiver, speedy, super reliable. They've got Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
They've got a great running game with Sermon. Small, powerful. He's kind of like the P. Ryan, Joe Mix.
Right.
They just crank out running backs. I think about Cedric Benson. I think about Ricky Williams in this game. Awesome running back tradition. The thing that I'm concerned about, obviously, is which defense is actually going to stop anything.
Well, the problem is with Texas, they have a bunch of injuries, especially in that secondary.
Oh, yeah.
So the fact that, you have injuries in that secondary, and so you have Jalen Hurts, who was a threat throwing the ball and running the ball, I think that's just going to be a little too much for Texas to overcome.
Yeah, did you see the Texas game last week at West Virginia?
I saw that.
Parts of it?
Parts of it,
yeah.
Yeah.
And, West Virginia, they were coming into that game 3-1, not lighting it up on offense, and I know there's a lot of injuries, but they were kind of doing what they wanted to do and stayed in that game until late in the fourth quarter. Both these defenses concern me. I don't know. This is one of my 5-star millennial teaser picks of the week. The line is 11.5 right now, which I think is huge because somebody knows something I don't know. To have teams that I think are so evenly matched have a more than a 10-point spread. So, my pick, I'm taking Texas plus 17.5 points with a crazy out-of-this-world offense that I think is going to keep it close. I don't know who's going to win the game, but I'm going to tell you this. Put your money on a parlay right now. I'm giving you your first win of the weekend. Take Texas plus the 17.5 points right now. Don't ask questions. Don't adjust your screen. Just go and take Texas plus the 17.5.
I'm gonna let you have that one right there. I just think that with all the injuries that Texas has in that secondary, it's just gonna be too much for them to overcome. So I'm actually gonna stick with the 11-point spread.
You're gonna take?
I'm gonna take the 11. Yeah.
No, you're going to take Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And minus 11 points.
Yes.
So last week you took all my picks. So far we're 3 picks into it. You're going the other way.
Hey, you seen my picks today earlier. Exactly.
We're in a bigger pool with other people from Nebraska who don't want to really talk college football right now. And I did see your picks. I was like, man, you took all the favorites. You're laying points on all of our 10 games.
Yeah.
And I'm going the other way. I'm taking all the points this week. You know,
see.
my thing on college football is the farther we go into the season, the more upsets you're going to see. You don't see upsets in the weeks 1, 2, and 3 because you got the big blues playing a bunch of directional schools.
Right.
So, you know, I'm okay laying 40 points when it's Alabama against Taco Tech.
Right.
No problem. But if you watch the trend of history, the later we get into the season, the more upsets they are. You don't see any of the top 10 teams getting knocked off in the first 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Right.
They're going to start getting picked off. I'm going to just keep taking the points. This is one I'm going to take the points. 5-star Millennium pick of the century. I'm taking Texas plus 17.5. Clemson, can we say they're underwhelming so far? Can we say that they're underachieving so far? Is that fair to say about a Clemson team who started the season ranked number 1?
I think so. I don't know if Clemson's a sleepwalker through the season. I don't know if they just feel like, okay, we have this conference where we are the top dog. We know we're going to beat everybody.
It can't be that they have an entitlement issue when you have Dabo Swinney as the coach, because he would self-correct that, right?
You know, it's on. You know, the coaches can coach the game. They coach the game. They mold young men, but at the same time, the young men are playing the game.
Yeah.
So you know, it's on those young men.
Yeah, I remember what I was doing when I was 18 and 19. Not the best decisions of my life. It's not the best decisions.
I don't even want to think about it.
I was doing crazy, silly, stupid stuff.
Exactly.
They invite Florida State, your alma mater, in. Florida State is getting 27.5 points. And you know what? I think Hornibrook is kind of solidified the. I'm not saying their offense is great. I'm not saying they're good. I'm not even saying they're average. I'm just saying he's brought a consistency to them for whatever reason. And I think the defense has actually looked better the last 2 weeks. I'm taking Florida State on a teaser, but I'll take it plus the 27. This is part of one of my 3-team parlays. I've got a 4-teamer and a 3-teamer. I'm taking Texas. I'm taking Florida State plus 32.5. And my 3rd teaser pick that I'm going to get into in a couple minutes. But they're one of my 3 teaser picks. I think that their defense can keep it close. It's just too easy to say Clemson's just going to blow them out. That's what everybody expects. That's what everybody thinks is going to happen. They're at home. They haven't passed the eyeball test to tell me that they're just going to take them out. They very well might. They have the capability to do it. They have the talent to do it. They have the coaching. They have the fan base. They have everything. Every reason points in that direction. But I'm taking Florida State plus the 27.5 in this game. Has Florida State looked better?
Yes. And yes.
But here's the big
but.
What's the but?
But there's still some areas of discipline they have to correct on that defense. You know, the last game they played against North Carolina State, there was a couple of targeting penalties with some guys that's going to be needed in this Clemson game that has to set out the first half. Mm-hmm. So those are issues they have to clean up when you're trying to correct the team and actually turn your season around.
Can they keep it within 28 on the road?
Within 28, this is the problem. You go into a 2-quarterback system and you go into it in a Clemson team that's going to be routed because they're playing at home. The issue that I see with Florida State is going with James Blackman to start and then bringing in Hornibrook. I don't like the fact that you bring in... I don't like that either. I don't like the fact you're bringing in Hornibrook to clean up when Hornibrook actually started Hornibrook. I'm with you. Exactly. And so that's the issue that I see with Florida State in the offense. And I think that just with James Blackman starting, he's going to get them behind the gun and he tries too hard. So
maybe I'm wrong, but my whole thing with James Blackman is this: hype, results zero. It's about how well he knows the offense. He's mobile. He's got an arm. But again, results zero.
Exactly.
It's about winning the game.
Exactly.
And he has not passed my eyeball test. Yeah. I like Alex Hornibrook. To me, he managed what they gave him in Wisconsin. They're not a passing team. He managed the game. Not every quarterback is going to be Brett Favre or Tom Brady. Exactly. Some guys are just built to manage the game.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't have to run the whole thing and take over. Yeah. James Blackman, to me, you sit him. I got to see what Alex Hornibrook is going to do, and I trust him more than I do James Blackman.
Well, I mean, at this state in time, of course, I'm looking at the game too, and I'm looking at the NC State game with Hornibrook starting. That the offense actually looked efficient. They stayed ahead of the chains. A lot of the series that they were actually in the game, and so with James Blackman coming in, I think it kind of throws things back off again, because now the offense has to now go back to learning James Blackman's cadence as far as calling the plays.
Yeah, timing,
so,
everything,
right.
You get your timing down with your wide receivers. I mean, look, just make a switch. Make one right decision, Willie Taggart, at this point in the season. Switch your quarterback. Your fan base will be behind you. It's not a negative mark against James Blackman. You just got to find a leader. I want to surround myself with winners. That has to be your mentality. Right now, that's not it. It's, somebody let all the inmates out of the asylum and they put on Florida State helmets this season, and that's what we've gotten. Next game, Michigan State going on the road to Wisconsin. Wisconsin's defense, a lot better than people are talking about. Wisconsin's offense, Joe Kroon, their quarterback, I think he's a lot better than people are saying. I'm not expecting them to do what Jalen Hurts does offensively, right, as far as moving the ball through the air. But he's one of those game manager guys who's not going to be throwing interceptions. He's going up against a tough defense. I mean, I think that even last week, Michigan State, I think on defense played well. Their offense was failing because they would get over the 50-yard line, and then they forgot that they had taken their smart pill, and everything fell apart. They couldn't get into the end zone. And then Ohio State pulls away. So, this is my thing. If Michigan State has got to get their offense on track. Against this defense, I don't know if they can do it. I think that this game is close. I like Wisconsin to pull it out. I think time management, I think they're going to be handing off the ball to my man, Jonathan Taylor, who is, I mean, you have to admit, we've seen him many times. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing speed cutting to the outside. I think Michigan State keeps it close. I like Wisconsin in this game. Michigan State take the 10.5 points.
I'm looking at this game, and I'm looking at Michigan State's defense. Their defense is top-notch. Their offense is not top-notch. When I look at this game, I think that Wisconsin's offense, along with your guy, your running back, Jonathan Taylor.
You'll be saying his name in December. Jonathan Taylor.
With Jonathan Taylor.
Right.
I think that offensive line and that combination of Jonathan Taylor wears down that Michigan State defense, just like Ohio State did last week.
Yep.
I actually look for Wisconsin to pull away and going in the fourth quarter, I look for them to pull away from this.
I think the key to Wisconsin winning this game is going to be their defense. I think if their defense can neutralize, they don't even have to shut down Ryan Laricki. I think if they just neutralize Michigan State's offense at home at Camp Randall, they're going to be jumping around in between the end of the third and the beginning of the fourth quarter. I think they get the crowd in it, ball control offense, and don't make mistakes. That's the biggest thing. Just don't turn the ball over. And I think that Wisconsin pulls away late in the fourth quarter, 7 or 8 point win. Look for it to happen. A game that's not being talked about anywhere in social media, any of the big networks, is Iowa State, a team that I love, and West Virginia. West Virginia is getting 10.5. I'm loving this game. It's at home. They showed that they could at least play with the big boys. Texas came last week. Right. They kept it close. I think both, again, not great teams, equally matched teams that piques my interest. It piques my interest. And I would put both of these teams at C or a C+. How do you see this game?
Again, I see this game as a C+ game too. I see the way I look at it is West Virginia offensively showed me that they have some good skill players still left on that team. Dana Holgerson did not leave the cupboards bare, and I look for but West Virginia to actually pull away from this game later on in the game.
Hey, Iowa State is tougher than you're thinking then. If you think that West Virginia is going to pull away, I think Iowa State has a little more moxie than that. I think this is going to be a razor-tight game, but 10 points is too much for me.
Really?
I got to take the 10.5. Yeah, I think it's going to be that close.
Well, yeah, I mean, Iowa State is tough, but I just like what West Virginia does on offense. I mean, they're able to spread the ball out and they're able to go down the field. I think that will be the key to this game right here.
Penn State, coming off a home victory for their homecoming, goes on the road to Iowa. I don't want to talk about what Iowa did last week anymore. I'm over it. I think Kirk Ferentz is over it. I think Nate Stanley is over it. I think Malik Sargent is over it. I think their lack of offensive line protection is over it. 3 interceptions. Okay, see, this is where you have to stop me. I said I don't want to talk about it. I get up on the pulpit and I start going through why they were so bad last week. Okay, so it's last week. We're going to put it in the rearview mirror. We're looking through the big window here, driving straight forward. We're not looking in the little mirror, what happened last week. They're at home getting 3.5 against what I think is a solid, possibly underrated Penn State team.
Well, I'm going to talk about it.
Okay, wait. Did you see the HBO special with Penn State?
No, I don't have time to watch TV. I just don't have time.
Okay, so you know HBO. They went to Florida. They went to Penn State. I think they're going to Oregon and then some other school. You haven't seen any of those?
No.
It's like a 1-hour documentary on game week.
No, Ryan.
They talked to James Franklin. I'm just listening. I'm just getting up to speed. It was a pretty cool thing. Maybe that's why I'm a little biased. But okay, you want to talk about it. I think Penn State's solid. I think they're underrated. Chris, what do you think?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I think after last week's showing for Iowa, 30 carries, 1 yard.
I can't.
30 carries for 1 yard.
It's not the first time that stuff has happened this year. I mean, I just can't. There's no place in my head.
Your quarterback.
3 interceptions.
3 interceptions.
8 sacks. I can't.
8 sacks. Minus 64 yards.
Let's get to number 10 Penn State going to number 17 Iowa. So what do you see?
Well, I see Penn State winning this game. I think the game is actually going to be close. I think Iowa has something to prove.
Right, they're going to sharpen up, but not enough to beat Penn State.
Not enough to beat Penn State. I think offensively Penn State, they do enough to win, and they're going to play up to the competition. I think Penn State is probably one of the better teams in the Big Ten, and I actually look for them to be in the Big Ten championship.
Really?
Yeah.
James Franklin, Kirk Ferentz. Kirk Ferentz is the most senior coach, I think, in America at this point.
Yeah.
Maybe Frank Zolich at Ohio is number 2. I can't remember. So those 2 guys are character guys, build programs the right way. You never hear about them in the police blotter. I like both of them. I think that Iowa will look improved, which is easy to do compared to last week. I don't think there's enough horses to keep up with Penn State. I think they're just that much better. I look for a 4 to 5 point victory for Penn State on the road, and they start getting serious about wrapping up this season. We're halfway through after this week.
Yeah, pretty much. Just an interesting story about James Franklin, how much of a character guy he is.
Yeah.
So there was a young lady on campus visiting campus. She has on a Michigan State shirt.
Security?
No.
Ma'am, do you know where you're at?
James Franklin sees the young lady, takes off his vest, gives it to the young lady to cover her up.
That's a good story. When was this?
This happened, it had to happen earlier this week when she was visiting campus. James Franklin, he's a character guy, and he has a sense of humor.
Yeah, it is so good. Oh, man. Speaking of sense of humor, my 5-star millennial teaser pick of the week, number 2, Florida goes on the road to Death Valley to play LSU, ranked number 5, the number 2 passing team in the country. Florida coming off a huge, inspirational victory over Auburn. The first half, I'm willing to throw it away because they did so much right, including not give up, including playing defense, causing turnovers. Big home win, but LSU on the road, College game day, primetime game in Death Valley, that's a whole nother story. Right now, LSU is a 13.5-point favorite. Give me the 19.5 points in Florida. Where's my helmet? Give me that helmet. I want my helmet up here. Florida plus 20 with that defense keeps it close. I love Florida in this game. I think LSU's going to win. Everybody in Gainesville, just silence your mics for a minute. I like LSU to win the game, but I am taking Florida plus the 20 all day long.
Well, Ron, for the first time tonight, I actually agree with you.
Okay.
Yeah,
you're going to have one win at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Just guarantee yourself one win this week.
Yeah, the problem that LSU faces is they haven't faced the defense like Florida all season. Florida is ranked number 2 in the SEC right now, ranked number 11th in the nation as far as total defense. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that you have LSU, who's only played an average defense, who ranks 96th, out of all the teams they played this week, they ranked 96 as an average. So I think that Florida defense comes to play. I think Florida keeps it close.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
boy.
I think they keep it close. I think they keep it close with Kyle Trask actually taking what the defense gives him, and not turning the ball over.
All right. You heard it here first. I'm taking Florida. Don't let me down. Florida plus 20 on the road. I can't see them losing by 21 points. I can't. I think their defense is good enough. I think they're going to keep them in the game. I think that their offense will be enough to score maybe 14, 17 points. Yeah. And I think they'll keep LSU to 24, 27 points.
Yeah.
Here's my fear. LSU jumps ahead early and Florida can't. Is this wrong? This is wrong. You don't want to help me, huh? You're just going to let me sit there. Okay, now I'm ready to go. Let's go. I'm scared that Florida, their defense will be a little jittery in Death Valley. Right. LSU gets ahead early and then mental breakdown. That's my only fear. My only fear. It's not even more than 50% legit. But that's my fear. I still want to take the 20 points. I love this pick. I'm getting Texas in a neutral game with an awesome offense, plus 17.5, and I'm getting Florida with a pretty good offense, a really good defense on the road, plus 20. Yeah. What could go wrong, right?
I refuse to answer that question.
What could go?
Anything could go wrong. Hopefully Trask, his knee is a little bit better than it was last week, and Mullen does not run a quarterback draw with the guy.
Don't you have a high level of confidence though if they bring in Emory Jones? My only thing is Emory Jones, not a lot of snaps going against that defense. But let's not get the cart before the horse. But you have confidence in Emory Jones.
I have somewhat confidence in Emory Jones, but the thing with Emory Jones coming into the game is the fact that they have to kind of water down the playbook. So it's like 1-2 go. If he doesn't see a guy, he's going to run. But he can do that. I think that's an advantage for Florida because you don't have to worry about Kyle Trask really running right now, right? Not right now.
No, that's a wrinkle that LSU's got to prepare for.
It's a wrinkle, but I think that LSU defense, I think they will be prepared for Emory Jones coming into the game and knowing that the full playbook is not going to be open to him. So I think that's an advantage for LSU there as well.
Give me your final score.
Final score to that game, 24-19 Florida.
I'll go 28-17. 28-17 LSU at home. Offensively, there's just not enough bullets in the gun for Florida. And like I said, LSU, number 2 in the country in passing under Joe Burrow. I mean, this guy, he left Ohio State. I heard this really cool interview with Urban Meyer, who I think is one of the best coaches in college football in the past 20 years.
Right.
And it was a preseason interview, and he was asked, what's a surprise team that you got to keep your eyes out for? And he said, I won't even give you a team. I'll just give you a guy, Joe Burrow at LSU. And he's been dead right on. That's why he's brilliant. And that's why he will coach at USC next year. But having said that, I think that their offense has enough to score 17 points. I can't even see a special teams play. I think Florida kind of keeps it close, but 20 points. I mean, if you score 17, that means that, they've got to score 37 on a defense that Florida has.
Right.
That's way above par and proved themselves last week.
I just think Florida has enough to frustrate Joe Burrow, though.
Really?
I think they do. That front seven has just enough to frustrate him. And, I mean, with the way Grantham dials up blitzes,
yep,
and the secondary actually playing a little bit better than they did at the beginning of the season, I think they have just enough to frustrate him.
Let's switch gears to Major League Baseball. The playoffs have been going on. We haven't been talking about them because they haven't been relevant. And that's another story that we've talked about with Major League Baseball not being relevant. How do you compete? Whole nother story for a whole nother day. St. Louis going up against the Nats in the National League Championship Series. I'm taking St. Louis because they're just a team that's just solid. They have enough pitching. They've been there before. They have enough guys that have been in this position before. I love that they have a solid catcher. The starting 4 rotation I like Wainwright. And I know pitching wins series. But I think that the Nationals winning their series wasn't so much about their great pitching because the first game Scherzer pitched, he got knocked out in the 4th inning. And it was more about LA melting down. Right. And some of the management moves that LA made, especially in Game 5, leaving Kershaw in too long, gives up 2 dingers, 1 to Rendon. He should have been pulled after that. The next guy comes up, first pitch, 450 yards out into the parking lot. And next thing you know, you're out of the playoffs, which is a great thing because I hate LA. I hate the Lakers. I hate the Dodgers. If they had a horse racing team, I would hate them. Having said that, Boston has more championships than LA.
Here we go.
Okay, all right. We go. Back to baseball. Look, I know they got Scherzer. I know they got Strasburg. Those are 2 lights out guys. Normally, I would love that going into a 7-game series. I don't love it. I'm going to take St. Louis to win this series.
I'm going to take St. Louis, too, just simply off of the experience factor alone.
Right.
You have Strasburg, you have Scherzer going into this series. However, they have never been there before. You have Wainwright, and you have Yadier Molina, the catcher for St. Louis, the Cardinals. Basically, these guys have been here. They've been here before. They can handle the pressure. And I think that with that experience, that's what's going to carry them over the top.
We got some friends out in St. Louis listening to us every Friday night live right here on YouTube like you're listening right now. Some of the best baseball fans, one of the best baseball cities, St. Louis. Yeah. And I remember Jack Buck used to be the play-by-play guy for here's a dinger into left field. I love Jack Buck. I mean, right. And then his son, he gave all his genes to his son. His son does a great job on all the platforms. Let's go to the American League. We did switch around the interior decorating fairies came and switched some stuff around inside our studios this week. I just happened to notice a pennant behind your head of the current world champions. Setting that aside, I have to get my little boop, boop in for the next 2 weeks because then we won't be world champions anymore, and you didn't hear me say that. The team from New York will be playing the Houston Astros.
Yes, yes.
So, when we're talking about the team from New York, we're talking about hitting.
Yes.
Questionable starting 4.
Yeah.
When we're talking about pitching.
Unfortunately.
And hitting.
Yeah.
And some of the hitting isn't great because I know you're going to say, well, what about Giancarlo Stanton? And I'm going to say he's a strikeout magnet.
I'm not going to say that guy.
And then you're going to say, well, what about Judge? And I'm going to say, well, he's also a strikeout magnet. So both these teams, I think, have incredible hitting, but this is where my element of pitching wins in October comes into play. You got Verlander, Cole, and Greinke. And if they need to go 4, they can go to Wade Miley, who's serviceable. But those starting 3 right there, Verlander, Cole was lights out last night.
Yeah.
Verlander's been lights out most of the season, but he had a dinger in Game 4 in Tampa Bay. That was only on 3 days rest. So, I'd like to hear your opinion before I tell you who's going to actually win.
Since they're
my unbiased prediction.
Sure. Since they're coming to Yankee Stadium.
Well, Houston has home field.
Well, I mean, hey, look, they have to play Yankee Stadium, which is a hitter's paradise, obviously. But to be honest with you, it depends on which which pitchers we come to get? I mean, Houston is known for having good pitching. As you said, I mean, Verlander had a horrible game the other night. And
it was 3 runs in the first inning, and then he settled down for 3 more.
Three
That's
runs,
not a horrible outing.
But this is
that was on 3 days rest.
But this is Tampa Bay, who couldn't hit.
Who's a playoff team?
It's a play.
They're in the playoffs.
They got in the playoffs.
Right, they beat the A's.
Yeah, they beat the A's.
Okay.
But at
That's,
one
wait a
point,
minute.
they couldn't
My
even
whole
hit.
thing is he didn't have a horrible outing.
They couldn't hit a baseball.
It was on 3 days rest. He only gave up 3 runs in the first inning. It's not like he
gave-
got lit up.
But
And then he settled down for the next 4 innings.
But he gave it up to Tampa Bay, who couldn't hit a beach ball with a tennis racket.
Wow. Okay. Moving on.
Exactly. But anyway.
You want to talk about the Yankees pitching? I mean, let's talk about your starting 4. Servino hasn't been lights out since last year.
Right.
Okay, so I would label him as a B-plus starter. And then who's your other 3? You're going with Happ? You're going to bring back CeCe, who's on the wrong side of 35 to 300 pounds? I mean, I don't think so.
No.
Tanaka's not consistent. His ERA, what's Tanaka's ERA? 4.48. Happ's is 4.91. Then you got Paxton. Paxton's a serviceable guy. Maybe a better than average B-minus pitcher. Mm-hmm. So you got 2 questionable guys at Paxton and Servino, and then what? I mean, are you excited being a Yankee fan knowing you got to throw Tanaka out in Game 3? That's what's really getting you the fireworks started?
No, Ron, I told you.
They might bring back CeCe? You're getting excited about CeCe? This isn't dominant CeCe.
But I told you that in the season that I was very upset with the Yankees for not going out and getting.
So how concerned with you about the Yankees pitching now?
I mean, I'm concerned about the Yankees pitching now, but as long as the bats are rolling.
Okay, but Houston has bats. Altuve, Bergman.
But
George can hit.
We got gunners, man. I think we're gonna be all right.
Houston has gunners, but
we're gonna be all right.
So you have hitters, and Houston has hitters.
Houston has hitters, right?
Except Houston has lights out pitching, and you guys don't. And Houston has home field advantage, and you guys don't.
We do just enough to win. That's all you have to do.
Give me your prediction.
My prediction. I think the Yankees pull the season. I just think that offensively they're on the roll right now. And I think they pull it out.
Wow, I'm taking Houston in this one.
Yeah.
I just think they're better. This isn't about me being a Red Sox fan, hating on the Yankees. I just think that they're equally offensively matched. But you give me Cole. I mean, I think about Schilling and Johnson. I think about when you go into the playoffs and you can get a 1, 2, 5, 6, and then it all hands on deck for 7 on your pitching rotation.
Right.
I mean, I get Cole and Verlander in 4 games out of 7. I mean, I'm liking that. And then you got Greinke. Greinke's not, Greinke's as good as Servino or Happ or Tanaka or CeCe. I mean, they said they might bring back CeCe. Is that it? Why?
Let him take an honorary retirement.
Grab that golden parachute, man.
Exactly. Just
talk about your best days are in the rear view mirror. I mean,
this one out, man.
Yeah, your best days are in the rear view mirror. Hey, did you happen to catch the? So I'm taking Houston. Okay. Did you happen to catch the Patriots game last night? Not Homer talk, just talking. Did you see the Patriots last night?
I caught a few clips of the game.
And what were your thoughts? Because at halftime it was 14-14 after they went up 14-0. Sloppy first half. Didn't look like the Patriots. But, everything about the New York Giants right now is an absolute anthrax-induced dumpster fire.
That right now, Bill Belichick's coaching of the defense is really one of the best things that I've probably ever seen. I mean, as far as a head coach, the fact that defense, as bad as they looked in that first half, they couldn't do anything in that second half.
I didn't think they looked that bad in the first half. The Giants went down to 1 minute and 29 seconds left in the first quarter before they got 1 first down. So I think that they were playing fairly solid.
Right.
I think they're only averaging giving up 6.7 points a game, less than a touchdown a game. And yesterday, the 14 points that the Giants scored, one of those wasn't even because of the defense. It was a fumble, and they ran it back. So they're right on average. But here's my thing. I want to talk about this week. I'm so sick of people hating not only on the Patriots. No, hear me out. Seriously. just hating on good teams. And it happens with me growing up. I hated the Yankees. Just, the guys out there in our circles of sports that just hate certain teams because they're good. How many people down here in the South just can't stand Alabama just because they're good? I'll tell you a story. When I was growing up, there was about 4 or 5 years where I took a bus to school every day. And there was this kid who I think mommy didn't hug him enough, which is a sad thing. But he really had an attention issue where he needed more attention. And looking back on it now, it's really obvious and clear. And he used to stand at the bus stop, and he would just yell out crazy things. And one of the crazy things I remember him yelling out was, "There's no such thing as gravity. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as gravity." And, you just kind of look at that kid and go, he really believes this. You know the thing about that is, there's guys our age that go to talk sports, and they're yelling out, "There's no gravity." They'll sit in the bars. "There's no gravity. The Patriots aren't that good. Bama's not that good. Patriots are overrated. They haven't played anybody. Golden State's not really that good." They're not that good, or is it you? Here's the thing. Just because you say there's no gravity doesn't mean it's real. The Patriots are still good. And what you should be doing, instead of showing your age and your lack of maturity, is embracing greatness. Not flying like a moth to the light when it comes to viral teams. You know who's viral right now in the NBA? The Nets. They're getting Kyrie. They're in a new stadium. Jay-Z, Beyonce. They're getting all these free agents. They're getting Durant. They're viral. They're going to be awesome. No, they're not. They haven't done anything. Stop talking crazy. I'll tell you another one. Dallas fans. Dallas fans are the loudest ones screaming that the gravity isn't real. We're going to make it to the Super Bowl. We're the best team in the NFL. No, you're not. And I'm not just saying this because you lost to Green Bay last week. You're not the best team in the NFL because you've done nothing. In 3 years, this is Dak's 4th year. He's won 1 playoff game. You know the problem with that? He's lost 2. He's lost twice as many as he's won. Make it to the conference finals before you say something. And for the last time, you're not going to win a Super Bowl as long as Jerry is running that show. And then the next thing you're going to hear from Dallas fans is, "Oh no, his son's running it. Steve's running the show." No, he's not. Jerry's ego pushed him out of the door. He's not. Jerry's running this. Jerry is the reason why Ezekiel is there. Just talk reality to yourself. When you're shaving in the morning, sports guy, and you start putting the cream on and you're going into your shave routine, just tell yourself, I love Dallas. They're my favorite team, but they're not the best team. Embrace greatness. Learn to watch what the Patriots are doing and love it, because it's not going to be here. Stuff like this doesn't come around. Nick Saban's at Alabama don't fall off the tree every week. When you start looking at some of the statistics of what teams like this done, Golden States don't come around that often. LeBron James, as much as I think he might be immature, I have to say he's one of the greatest players. Now, last year he took off. But the overall thing about these guys that just hate LeBron, I'm not a LeBron fan. I'm a fan of greatness. Just embrace greatness. Run away from the immature nonsense talk that your love and passion for your team, which is only your team most of the time because you grew up in that town. Otherwise, you wouldn't like them. Let the immaturity go. Embrace greatness in sports, even if it's for a team that you don't like. Brady has 27 playoff wins. 27. Now, some of you out there watching might think, well, what is 27? What kind of number is that? That's more wins in the playoffs than 28 NFL franchises. Sit on that for a minute. That's what this guy's doing at 40. 40 years old. Last year, there were 4 players in the NFL that were over 40. 3 of them were kickers. The guy's 40 years old doing this. He's putting up awesome numbers. He's probably at the zenith, the pinnacle, mentally, of his career. He has more playoff victories than Aikman and Elway combined. Just embrace greatness. Look at Alabama. They just recruit better. They just play better. They're coached better. Stop hating Alabama. Start looking at them each week and going, wow, I can't believe what these guys are doing every week. Yeah, they do it against a couple directional schools, but consistently, they're in the playoffs. Every year. They're awesome. Golden State, don't hate on them because they got Boogie Cousins last year. Embrace greatness in sports. Watch it. When it comes around, look at it. Marvel. Let it entertain you. Because greatness like the Patriots, like Golden State, like Alabama, they don't come around that often. Maybe once or twice in a lifetime. And if it's not your team, it actually shows maturity to talk about how great they are. Instead of being the dumb guy with 3 beers in front of you going, oh no, man, they suck, they cheat. That comes off so young. Here's the great thing, one great thing about the Patriots. Here's a list of free agents that other teams didn't want, that didn't think were good enough to play in the NFL anymore, that the Patriots picked up. See if you know any of these names. Defensive lineman Jabal Shear. Picked him up from the Browns. How about wide receiver David Patton in 2001? He wasn't good enough to play in the NFL, according to somebody. James Devlin, Alan Branch. How about Patrick Chung? Philly said that we didn't want him anymore. That's okay. All he's done is won multiple Super Bowls with the Patriots. Deion Lewis, not good enough to play with the Colts. Comes over, Super Bowl player, Super Bowl champion, dynamic running back. Ever heard of Darrelle Revis? He wasn't good enough. Jets didn't want him. What about Corey Dillon? Remember him? Malcontent from Cincinnati. Can't get it on. He just happened to run for over 1,200 yards with the Patriots. No locker room problems. Randy Moss. How about Rodney Harrison? You know, he used to play for the Chargers. And then he played for the Patriots. Most of those guys you probably never heard of. Guess what? They all won Super Bowls with the Patriots. And it's not just because of Brady. It's not just because of Belichick. It's because they have a factory of greatness. They don't get caught up in drama. The minute Antonio Brown had nonsense going on with their team, he was gone. Sometimes they can bring in people that have drama and shape them up. Like Randy Moss rode himself out of a great situation playing with Chris Carter, Hall of Famer in Minnesota. Comes into New England, has a cup of coffee, does awesome. Corey Dillon ran himself out of Cincinnati. All kinds of off-the-field issues. Comes to New England, no problems. 1,200-plus yard rusher. Just get over the fact that other teams are great and embrace it. Speaking of great things, hopefully we're doing a great job here. We would like you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Help us grow the first round. We put a lot of time in here, and we try and make it entertaining, and we want it to be entertaining for you. Help us grow the show. Tell your friends about the show, and hit the subscribe and the like button. This week's top 5, Chris, is the top 5 greatest athletes of all time. Any sport, any gender, any era, and your number 5 is who?
My number 5 is Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson played multiple years in the NFL. He had basically 3,000 yards for 38 games. Had 38 rushing touchdowns. However, he also played baseball at the same time. He had 141 home runs in 8 seasons. And so the fact that he's able to play both sports at a high level at that much of a time, both in college and professional, Bo Jackson's he's my number 5.
You know, I'm never going to forget the All-Star game out in Anaheim where he runs up on the fence, makes the catch, runs up on the fence, and comes back into play.
Exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, he's an incredible athlete. My number 5 is, and actually we have an autograph of him in one of our memorabilia pieces here on the wall, is Jesse Owens. Now, for younger people watching, you might not know who Jesse Owens is. Just go watch a documentary on Jesse Owens. African-American athlete, went to the 1936 Olympics, ran in Berlin in front of Hitler and won 4 gold medals. Now, if that wasn't enough, in 1935 one day, he happened to break 5 world's records. Not in one day, in 45 minutes. Jesse Owens was such an awesome athlete. He held world's records in track and field while he was in high school. High school. That's amazing to me. My number 5, Jesse Owens. My number 4, Carl Lewis. 9 gold medals, 10 world championships. I could go on and on and on. But overall, as an athlete, I know he's probably on your list too. I'm taking Carl Lewis at my number 4.
My number 4 is Michael Phelps. He has 28 gold medals, 28 medals. He has the most Olympic gold medals of any Olympian. He has 23 gold medals. He has 3 silver, and he also has two bronze. Michael Phelps is my guy. He's also now is the most accomplished swimmer to ever live.
Oh, yeah. One of the most accomplished Olympians to ever live. So there's the Jesse Owens piece. That's him in the long jump in 1936 in Berlin competing. And it's so cool because you see these autographs today of athletes, and it's just some zig.
Right.
I remember I was with Extra Sports out in La Jolla for the training camp for the Chargers, and I'd see LaDainian Tomlinson.
Right.
Awesome guy. But the signature, it just looks like dyslexic chicken scratch on. I mean, it's just, you don't even know. You can't read it.
Right.
And you look at here, and it says, "Best wishes, Jesse Owens, 36th Olympiad."
Wow.
And it's just absolutely handwriting perfect. It's just awesome. It took me 5 years to get that piece. I just think he's lights out. My number 3 athlete of all time. I'm going to go outside the box to somebody that most people in the past 20 years that have followed sports wouldn't put on their top 5. He's in mine. Wilt Chamberlain. And before we even talk about all the awesome statistics that he had just playing basketball, when he was at Kansas, he was an All-American in track and field. He was an All-American in volleyball and in basketball. So he is a well-rounded athlete. And that's before we even get to the NBA stuff. NBA-wise, you know the NBA changed 50 rules just because of Wilt Chamberlain? He averaged 50 points over a whole season. He's the only man to ever score 100 points in one game. And before we get into some nonsense about, but when he was playing, he was 7 foot and there was no other dominant players that were 7 foot. There was a lot of guys that were big players back then. There was awesome players in that era. I think about George Mikan. I think about Oscar Robertson. I think about Bill Russell. I think about Jerry West. All these guys played with and against Wilt Chamberlain. So that whole argument about he was just taller than everybody, he averaged 50 points for a whole season. and basketball wasn't even the only thing he was good at. He ran track and field. He played volleyball. I mean, he was just an awesome athlete. Revolutionized his sport of focus, which was basketball. But athletically, he's number 3 for me.
My number 3, I'm just going to get a lady some love. My number 3 is Babe Dietrichson Zaharias. Zaharias. There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me. But yeah, she's an Olympic gold medalist, and every sport that she competed in, she set records. She's the only female Olympian to have medal in running, jumping, and throwing. And on top of that, she's a champion golfer. So she's an all-around athlete. Had to get a lady some love on that one.
What about Jackie Joyner-Kersee or Flo? Remember Flojo?
Yeah, I remember Flojo, but
Florence Joyner.
Yeah, but they were mostly in running and jumping, but she did it in all 3 major categories in the Olympics. I mean, that in itself is special within itself. The fact that she was able to do all 3 categories, not just one, not just 2.
And she did it back in the 40s,
right?
When a lot of women weren't playing sports.
Exactly.
Or not known for it, at least. So my number 2 is Bo Jackson. When you just talk about overall athlete, I mean, the guy is just a freak specimen. Not only did he play baseball and excel and play football, and not for a hip injury, would probably been one of the best running backs ever. He's also a marksman in archery. He bikes to raise money for charities that he deems important down in Alabama. athletically, I mean, he's just an absolute. I don't want to say that. I just he's one of the best physical specimens and talented. There's a lot of guys out there that are big, but he has the talent to go with it. And if I was starting a team, I would want him to be on my all whatever team. Maybe not baseball, but definitely football. But his talent crossed over to both sports, and I think he was a dominant player in both sports. So Bo Jackson's my number 2 overall.
My number 2 was Carl Lewis, and you've already touched on what Carl Lewis did, but the fact that he was able to span his career over 4 Olympics, in itself, just to show his longevity within the sport of track and field was great within itself.
Yep. Who's your number 1? Because mine will probably surprise you.
Well, my number 1 is actually going to surprise a lot of people. My number 1 is Jim Brown.
Jim Brown, the running back.
Jim Brown, the running back.
There's Jim Brown right there.
That guy.
Jim Brown. So your number 1 actually surprised me.
Yeah, that guy right there.
So we're talking about the greatest athletes of all time. You think Jim Brown is...
Let me explain.
Okay.
In high school, Jim Brown had 13 letters in 5 sports, which included football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, of all things.
Jim Brown. See, I didn't know Jim Brown even played lacrosse.
Oh, let me go even further. Jim Brown also was an All-American in lacrosse at Syracuse and was known as one of the greatest lacrosse players to probably ever play in college. History.
How did I not know this?
I don't know.
I'm feeling very inept right now.
As a matter of
intelligence-wise.
As a matter of fact, Jim Brown is also not only is he in the Football Hall of Fame, but he's also in the Lacrosse Hall of Fame. So yes, Jim Brown is.
Wow.
Yeah, he's my guy. He's my number 1.
See, now I'm surprised that my number 1 isn't even in your top 5.
Yeah.
Which is a little shocking. My number 1 athlete of all time is Jim Thorpe. If you don't know who Jim Thorpe is, and you're a sports fan, invest some time in YouTube and watch some documentaries. While you're on YouTube, give us a subscribe and a like. Hit the notification bell. And then go check out Jim Thorpe, because what Jim Thorpe did over his whole lifetime, probably up until the last 10 years that he was alive, was absolutely amazing. Competed and won gold medals in the decathlon, the pentathlon, 5 other Olympic events, professionally played football, baseball, competed in bowling, professional boxing, and he played most of these at an extremely high level, was the best in the world when he was in the Olympics in Stockholm. In fact, the king of the country at that time said, "Sir, you're the greatest athlete the world has ever seen." Now, that was almost 100 years ago. But you have to compare the greatest athletes in their era to their era.
Right.
They didn't have circuit training. They didn't have nutritional specialists like they do today. They didn't have the high-intense off-season training. And he was doing this in multiple sports. I mean, to be the best athlete in the world when it comes to the Olympics, and then you're still awesome and a professional player in football, a professional baseball player, and a boxer. And by the way, I have some time left over. I want to go be a bowler also.
Right.
I mean, to me, that's incredible. And then his story is so amazing. And sadly, at the end of his life, he was working for, very small amounts of money, opening up Safeways and other things in Southern California. And he's never actually even gotten the recognition that I think that he deserves. Because a lot of people, when I go and talk to them today, especially if they're 30 or younger, they don't even know who Jim Thorpe is. He's got a town,
really
got his remains, brought them to Pennsylvania. The name of the town is Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, and they built a roundabout in the center of the town, and he is buried right there in a monument that's very well done. And someday I want to go there. But, if you haven't heard of Jim Thorpe, invest 10 minutes and just listen to all the amazing things that he did. But before you do that, what else is going on in the world of sports, Chris?
Well, we have a picture from the Padres, your neck of the woods.
Not my team, but my city. Yes.
Yeah, from your neck of the woods. Getting caught actually going through the doggy door, it had to be a bet. I don't know.
What did he do?
He got caught going through the doggy door and was arrested.
In Arizona.
In Arizona, yeah. I guess he was trying. It had to be a bet because there's nowhere in the world you're making that much money and you're crawling through somebody's doggy door trying to get in their house.
I mean, that goes to the category of like, what were you thinking? And then a subcategory of, wait a minute, you weren't thinking at all.
I don't.
A doggy door, and then he got tased,
he
right?
got tased, and he was
By the
kicking
owner.
and fighting. Exactly. I don't know what's going on.
I don't know what's going. He doesn't know what's going on.
Hey, we were talking about drawing attention to baseball. He found a way to
That's
do it,
not
right?
the right kind of attention.
Exactly.
Sir, we need you to turn to your left. We'll take a picture and then a straight-on mug shot. That's not the kind of attention Major League Baseball. What else piqued your interest this week?
And what else piqued my interest? It's been a long week. I needed something to make me laugh, something to just to pick me up. And Jacksonville Jaguars, you decided to give out 35,000 mustaches.
Oh my goodness, this is the Minshew thing?
Yes, for the Minshew Mania. So Jacksonville has decided to give out 35,000 mustaches to the fans that come out there to the game. Hopefully you guys have a full stadium so we can actually get to see those mustaches.
They haven't had a full stadium since the Super Bowl was there. And Minshew Mania, I mean, he's 2-2.
Yeah,
he's 2-2.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know how much mania we can get behind that. That music can mean only one thing. It's been another awesome show with you joining us here on a Friday night live on YouTube. It's time to thank our support staff. I want to thank Chris Roberts, my co-host, the man on the board, son of God, Taylor, El Presidente, Chet 40 for all of us here in the St. Jude studios. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting the first round. Go out and tell your friends. Help us get our subscriptions up. We want to be awesome for you. So every Friday night and Sunday morning when you turn in, it'll be something entertaining. So pass the good news along that we're on the air live then. Or you can check us out on Spotify and iTunes if you want to listen during the week. You can also watch archive videos on our YouTube channel, The First Round. Get a hold of us at The First Round with comments or questions. thefirstraundrd@gmail.com. We will be here Sunday morning, 9 o'clock. Until then, take care of yourselves. Have a good weekend.